everyone, and welcome to Real Life Talks. I'm your host, Yvonne Heath, author of the book Love Your Life to Death, and founder of the I Just Showed Up movement. So joining me today is my new, I'm going to say BFF because I know that we're going to be BFFs, friend Pete Bombaci. Pete is just someone that I am just so excited to share with you because his movement, what he is bringing to the world, this incredible global movement, is changing lives. And I mentioned to Pete earlier that I was a little upset with him because I went to his website, I went to his Facebook page, and I became obsessed and immersed in this message because it has never been more needed. It's so in line with what I am doing. And Pete, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Well, Yvonne, I am doing great, but we'll let a little insight to the audience that we just had some technical glitches on my end, but thrilled to be here and very grateful for your kindness in sharing this message and also for everything that you're doing, because we are all in this together. And it's so great to be able to come on and share a conversation that many people aren't even aware of the information that we're going to talk about today. And I think that's the real important part of the GenWell Project, is that we all need it now more than ever.
Absolutely. So, yeah, oh my goodness, yes. And as I always say, we have to roll with the glitches, right? We are imperfect. Technology is imperfect. And I always say, oh my goodness, we just did this and there were no glitches. Where are the glitches? So, Pete, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are and this incredible project, the GenWell Project that you founded. You were also the, I love this title, Chief Connection Officer. And how was this idea born? And tell us all about it. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Yvonne. The GenWell Project is a human connection movement whose mission is to make the world a happier and healthier place by reminding people about the importance of face-to-face social connection and inspiring them to take action. I say reminding, but that's trying to be gentle because most of us were never educated on the importance of human connection in our lives, really because up until the early 2000s, human connection used to happen so naturally. Our parents used to wash the car and cut the grass, kids used to play on the street, and frankly, we just had a slower pace of life. So back in 2003, I experienced the Summer Blackout like 50 million other people on the eastern seaboard of North America. And what happened that day is when the power got shut off, in apartment buildings and condos and on streets, what happened is people did what Maslow told us back in 1943 as a human innate need that we all have. And it's love and belonging. And people came out and they connected with their neighbors that they didn't know their names before that day. They talked to people across the street. Their friends came over. Their families got together. And the stories that I've actually heard since 2003 inspired me to say, okay, well, if all we needed was a catalyst to actually make some of those connections happen, maybe that's actually what we need more of. So since 2016, we launched the movement. We've been educating people about the facts. And the facts are, literally off the charts in regards to the information that's now available to us about the impact on our health, both mentally and physically, about the importance of human connection, and then acting as a catalyst a couple times a year, once in the spring and the fall, which now, due to COVID-19, we're less in need of a catalyst because we're waking up every day recognizing how lonely, isolated, and disconnected we feel because we're going through this same routine every day. We don't know where the end of this is coming. And so really what we've done over the course of the last 6-7 months is really focused on the education part so that we can inspire people, whether it's with your own family in your own house, with your neighbor, the person across the street, your community, in obviously, COVID safe protocol following ways, but how we can stay connected with each other, not only for our own health, but actually for the health of the people all around us.
Oh my goodness, there's so much to say. So first of all, I want to go back to 2003 because I think you might have glitched out. It was the blackout, right? There was a blackout, and I mean, people were connecting in new ways, and sometimes saying hi to a neighbor. They could have lived beside that neighbor for years and years and never before had a conversation.
Yeah, if I didn't mention the blackout, that's what it was. The Summer Blackout 2003, 50 million people on the eastern seaboard. In Canada, the research shows that 50% of us don't know our next door neighbor's name, and only 34% of us feel like we have a relationship with them. So we have a long way to go to build some of the bridges that will not only make people happier and healthier, but actually create more empathy and compassion for one another so that we can build some of the bridges that make it good for everybody to wake up every day and be excited about, hey neighbor, how you doing? All the old ways that we used to communicate. As I often say, when my parents cut the grass or when they forced me to cut the grass as a kid, it was a 4-foot wire mesh fence. It wasn't a 6-foot wooden fence. And unfortunately, what we've done to ourselves over the last 40, 50 years is created the emotional and physical barriers that find us more disconnected and isolated from one another than ever before. And now, unfortunately, our goal in 2016 when we launched the GenWell Project was to enlighten people before the crisis came. And, now we're in a crisis, but let's also remember, Yvonne, that, we're in a global pandemic right now, but people face their own crisis. And we're going to see a lot of this as we move forward every day in their own homes. That could be financial, it could be job loss, it could be relationship based, it could be kids, it could be illness. And what we're trying to do is create these connections and these networks of people around us, of family, friends, neighbors, and colleagues that will help us through those ups and downs that we're all going to face in life, because that's just life. And we just want to get people connected before they get to the crisis, because that's what will help them through the crisis the very best way possible.
You know that I'm just twitching and I have to stop myself from I have so much to say, because this is, truly, we are in line. And it's funny because our mutual friend, Heather Palmer, who is this extraordinary human being, and I know she's a thought leader that is connected with the GenWell Project, and she works with Amica and helps the seniors with cognitive wellness. And it is about connection. And when I spoke for her organization, she's like, I have to connect you with Pete. And I said, oh, okay. And, we went about our way. And then it's a year later. She's like, okay, you haven't connected with Pete yet, right? I said, okay, so now I understand, because I created the I Just Showed Up movement. And when I watched your videos, and I encourage everyone has to go to your website, GenWellProject.org, and watch those videos, because first of all, when Dr. Mackenzie's talking about it hurts my heart. We have an epidemic of loneliness. In a world of 7 billion people, we have an epidemic of loneliness. And then the other huge aha moment, I took many notes. I have to go through all of my notes. Sharon Lorber, you don't need a therapist. There have to be a therapist to be therapeutic. Oh my goodness, that is such a huge part of my message. And that is also part of our isolation. We're terrified. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. My message is just show up, connect, just connect. And the difference that it makes, Pete, talk about that. My gosh, it makes more, we complicate things, right? Like the power in human connection is undervalued in every way.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about the people that you selected from the videos and the information is you have Heather Palmer, who I love as well as you do, because we went to university together, and her expertise is in the area of seniors. Mm-hmm. And Sharon Lorber is a social worker dealing with at-risk youth at Sick Kids Hospital. And Dr. Mackenzie has a focus on the social determinants of health. That's his area of expertise. So when you actually look at it, we've basically just described all of us. We're all affected by several different things that create the isolation and loneliness. But, seniors are lonely and isolated, whether it's due to mobility, whether in COVID because we can't physically connect with each other, or up until COVID, maybe it was just the fast-paced lives that everybody was living that we weren't making time. From a young person's perspective, maybe it's digital technology, maybe it's the fear of what lies ahead in this crazy world that we live in. And interestingly enough, 50% of CEOs say that they suffer with isolation, loneliness, and feelings of disconnection. So I don't care who you are. The reality is that we're all experiencing these feelings because we've created the most fast-paced, distracted, and pressure-filled world in history. And so I think what's really interesting is a lot of people associated, we don't think of ourselves as a mental health movement. We are a human connection movement. We don't think of ourselves as a loneliness and isolation movement per se, and actually prefer to use the word disconnect. And because a lot of people can't directly link themselves to loneliness because it's just not something that, the stigma on loneliness may be as strong as the stigma about some of the other illnesses that people face. What we want to be is that proactive movement that says to everybody, hey, if today you reach out to one more person, we launched a campaign in May called Just One More. And the whole idea is every one of us as a proactive and a preventative measure can actually reach out to somebody else for our own health or for the health of somebody else, which gives us great meaning and purpose. We can truly make the world a happier and healthier place, one connection at a time, whether it's virtual during COVID, because those virtual connections are a great supplement to human connection. And we will get back to the human connections that were really the inspiration of the GenWell Project right out of the chute. So, it affects all of us. We can supplement it. We can do things right now to help people. A lot of times we associate giving with money. Right now, I would argue that the greatest gift that any of us can give is our time and our ability to connect with somebody else, even if it's just a simple, hi, how you doing? How you holding up during COVID-19? Let's talk about it. And I think we can truly make a difference during these challenging times.
Absolutely. And here is the big secret that I share with people. Say, are you ready? Yeah. Here's my big secret. I am a do-gooder. I am a connector. I go out of my way to wave, to make people, as we're driving by people, I say to the kids, look out the window and look ridiculous and smile. Hi, nice day, right?
I love it.
But here's the secret. I connect with people. I connect with my neighbors. Oh my God, so nice. The secret is it makes me feel really good. Yeah. You benefit as much, if not more, from reaching out to someone. When you walk by and you kind of look down or you don't make that eye contact and you kind of grunt at the person at the cashier, or you say, hi, how are you doing today? Oh, I love your blouse. You look nice. It's so simple, and yet it makes such a difference. And we can do it all day, every day, regardless of age, regardless of whatever. Anybody can make that connection and make a difference.
And I think that's you mentioned the simplicity, which I don't think I answered your question directly, but I think that is the simplicity of this message. And really, it's a lack of understanding and knowledge that's probably preventing us. We created these physical and emotional barriers amongst ourselves because we were living in the greatest growth era in the history of the world. It all became about what's in it for me? How can I get more? I need to achieve more money, status, this, that, and the other. The reality is what we need to do, unfortunately, it's a big challenge. We need to re-educate society on the importance of human connection. As I often say, participation, which has been around for 50 years, I know that I'm supposed to exercise for 30 minutes a day because somebody 50 years ago said, what we should do is we should educate people about this so that we don't have to deal with the ramifications of obesity and other challenges that we face. We have had the Canadian Food Guide for 100 years telling us what we should eat in order to stay healthy. Well, the time is now for us to put this message out to the general population to say, hey, you probably don't know this, but human connection, and here are the facts, single largest indicator of happiness in our lives, reduces anxiety and depression. 3 weeks ago, Massachusetts General Hospital came out with a new study saying it's the single largest preventative action that we can all take to avoid depression. Well, we know that depression, anxiety is growing through COVID-19. So if we don't have the information, how do we expect people to take the action that will prevent them from both mental and physical health issues? Because 2 weeks ago, there was a new study out of the UK showing a direct correlation between loneliness and isolation, and type 2 diabetes. So this isn't just mental health. This is physical health. This is happiness. It also strengthens your immune system, strengthens your self-confidence, increases empathy, compassion, resilience, and amazingly can increase your chances of living longer by up to 50%. And now my question, Yvonne, is how come we are not telling people this? How come we haven't had classes in schools? How come every business hasn't had somebody in to talk about the importance of human connection, not just because it also drives business success, collaboration, retention, all the things that businesses want, greater productivity, but it actually makes your staff happier and healthier. It makes them better human beings when they go home and they be like you. They actually wave at their neighbor and say hello instead of they put their head down, walk in and lock themselves in their house. This information can actually make people live longer and happier and healthier. Isn't that what we should all be sharing right now? I'm running on a bit here, but we often celebrate, this awareness day and that awareness day, and they tend to be focused on negative things. It's about this issue or that issue. Well, we've had the GenWell Project, and that is about human connection celebration. And our goal now, especially as we go through COVID-19 and we come out the other side, is say, when are we going to get government from coast to coast, people from coast to coast, mayors from coast to coast? Let's celebrate the action that people should take to stay healthy so that people don't end up in a hospital or in some other type of an emergency situation, a crisis, because they've taken the preventative action that will keep them happier and healthier.
Just like I'm just soaking it all in with extreme joy right now. And let me tell you, this has also been one of my passions in a different, the fact that we do not prepare for grief before grief arrives. And also when you see someone who's grieving, when you talk about that human connection, again, we see that person who needs a person more than they don't need a therapist 24/7. They need human connection. But again, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. And what you are talking about is two things. And I think we have to hit the road together. I've just decided.
I love it.
Because you're talking about being proactive instead of we are a reactive society. We wait until we're broken, till there's a crisis, until there's a suicide attempt, or a diagnosis of severe depression, and then we react.
100%.
We have to and it's the same with, people say, oh, didn't you learn about grief in nursing school? It's like, yes, 27 years ago. These are the things that we need to educate ourselves and understand. And we also complicate things. So human connection, learning about meaningful human connection is something that we need to be intentional about, especially now, and maintain. It's not wait till you're in a crisis, you're so lonely you can't get out of bed. Be very intentional, especially with this pandemic, intentional about your connection. One of the things that I've done, and I just love this, is one of my dear friends is Eva Olson. She's going to be 96 very soon. And she survived many, many things in her life, including the Holocaust. She was speaking all over Canada. And I know now it's very challenging for her to be at home. I put in my phone, call Eva once a week, and we are doing Zoom calls. I'm doing Zoom calls with her so that she can continue to share her message. That didn't cost me anything. And for me to do a Zoom call with this incredible person is as fulfilling to me as it is for her. And so the benefit, and then we're sharing this message, easy, right? I'll have a tea with a neighbor across the street, lots of distance. Ask, how are you doing really? What are you finding challenging? Yes. And now what can we do? That human connection, again, we have undervalued how it can change our lives, literally.
Yeah, and those are, Yvonne, if we had 35 million Yvonnes in this country, the world would be a better place. And let's be honest here. There are a lot of people suffering, through COVID-19, and maybe it's difficult for people to always think about, hey, if I actually help them, it would make me feel better, and then maybe I could feel more confident in addressing the challenges that I'm facing. Aside from the fact that if you actually connect with other people, they may actually provide the solutions that help you cope with. I think of on my street, for example, we set up a WhatsApp group with all the fathers that have kids on our neighborhood. And now that whenever kids get out of school, what we do is we actually share that somebody's going to the local park. And now that everybody knows that somebody's going to the local park, we all go together, because we don't know if school's going to end here shortly or not. But creating those different tools that can help us stay connected with the people, whether it's in our community, whether it's with our family, what are the tools that you're using to make that? For you, it was physical distancing with the neighbor across the street. It was Zoom with, was it Eva?
Eva, yes.
Yeah. And so every one of us needs to think about, what can I do for my own health, but more importantly, for the health of other people, because we are in this together. We may be experiencing it different based on age and many other factors, but the importance is we all need to recognize we're all going through this, which is actually the power of something like this and the length of it, which is making us really have to think about what is important in our lives and how do I get through these challenging times. And the answer for most of us is by staying connected with other people, so that I feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself and I'm not going through this journey on my own.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And the other thing is, again, I always say we have to acknowledge and allow our grief. Yes, this is challenging. And for some people, this pandemic is disappointment. For others, it's devastation. I mean, there is just, it's affecting every single person in the world. And we have to acknowledge and allow our grief. And then I say, and now what? What can I do? And when I hear about, and I know Zoom fatigue and, I'm tired about, doing all of this. Yes, I get that. And imagine if we couldn't connect like this. I mean, when I was in high school, I remember when computers came out and we're like, oh, we're too cool for computers. We're the cool kids. That's just for the nerds. Well, the nerds are laughing now. Wow. But we didn't have this opportunity. Like I get to see people anywhere in the world. We get to connect right now. What a gift. So when you need a Zoom break, and by all means, please go outside and hug a tree and go for a walk. My goodness, nature, and go with someone and stay 6 feet apart or wear your masks. What can we do? How can we connect? And let's remember that. And, this isn't going to be over once they say, okay, the pandemic's over and then we just all go back to normal. I kind of say there may be post-pandemic stress disorder. I mean, we have to continue to be connected meaningfully. And so tell me a bit more about the GenWell. So you had the events you did twice a year, and I heard, I listened to conversation. What was the name? See, let me check all my notes here. The Connected Conversations series. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Connected Conversations series, which we just launched season 2 this week, was about having conversations. It started during COVID. Conversations that help people stay connected to ideas or other people who can provide ideas, solutions, thought starters for people, so that we can cope our way through COVID-19 and we can find the solutions and the adjustments to our lifestyles that will make us resilient as we move forward. And of course, a big focus of every one of the conversations, from positive psychologists to workplace mental health to creative types to small business owners to big business owners, has all been about the importance of staying socially connected, both for our health, for the success of our business, for our employees, for our neighbors, for our friends. And the reality is, when you actually listen to these as a cumulative total of conversations, you recognize, holy cow, every one of us is better off in whatever space we're in when we stay socially connected. And so we're just thrilled that people are all willing to come on and share their story. And we're going to have you on as well to tell your story, because I think it's really important for people to hear this through many different lenses, because some people today may say, oh, that's not about me, until we have the head of a major CEO community come on and talk about how they feel lonely and isolated. Young people, old people, we are in this together. And I will say, to your comment about technology, I actually think one of the biggest silver linings is we're actually all using technology for things that add value to our lives right now. Not completely. You know, we're still on social, we're still taking in 24-hour news media. The average person takes in 5 times the amount of information on a daily basis today as they did in 1990. So we are overwhelmed. But if we're getting a little bit of this, a little bit of human connection to supplement those real face-to-face connections, well, then that is a beautiful silver lining coming out of this crisis.
Absolutely. So there's just so much richness in this conversation, Pete, and there's just so many opportunities. So tell us the website is.
The website's GenWellProject.org. People can head over there, find out more information about the movement. Right now, you know, we don't ask for money as part of our GenWell weekends, because we didn't want there to be a barrier between, you know, hearing this message and participating. But we do need money in order to help create the sustainability of the movement. They can make a donation there. They can sign up for our free newsletter. And probably most importantly is go over and follow us on any one of our social platforms. Every day, we're sharing information, tips, tools, and ideas that we hope will not only educate people, but will inspire people to think about reaching out to other people, again, for their own health, and maybe more importantly, for the health of somebody that we love, that we care about, and that we see each and every day.
Love, love, love your message. I knew this would fly by. Thank you so much, Pete, for your vision, for all that you do. I encourage everyone to go and watch the videos, get connected, the GenWellProject.org. Thank you so much, my friend. We will be talking again, I have no doubt.
Thank you, Yvonne. Truly great of you to share this message. And I can't wait to share your message with our community as well.
Thank you so much. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Real Life Talks is about learning how to just show up for yourself and each other. And the GenWell Project certainly helps us do that. So if you want to be able to just show up, my call to action is always plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Bye.
More tambourine, more tambourine.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media. This is Rogers TV.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
You know why Operation Smile, alongside our medical volunteers, provides safe cleft surgery to children free of charge.